The scent of espresso and leather filled Lorenzo De Luca's office, a combination I'd grown to associate with power and danger, and the man who occupied the space behind that massive mahogany desk. My fingers trembled slightly as I set down his afternoon coffee. Black, no sugar, always served at exactly 3 p.m. in the porcelain cup his grandmother had brought from Sicily. 2 years. I'd been his executive secretary for 2 years, managing his legitimate business operations while carefully ignoring the other meetings, the hushed phone calls in Italian, the men in expensive suits who visited after hours with briefcases that never seemed to contain documents. "The Romano contract needs your signature," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the way my heart hammered whenever I was alone with him. "And the City Planning Commission moved the zoning meeting to Thursday." Lorenzo didn't look up from the financial reports he was reviewing, his dark head bent in concentration. Even in this simple moment, he exuded authority, the kind that made mayors nervous and made rival families think twice before moving against him. His charcoal suit fit him perfectly, emphasizing broad shoulders and a lean, powerful build. A thin scar cut through his left eyebrow, the only imperfection on an otherwise devastating face. "Anything else, Lily?" His voice was deep, accented slightly despite years in America, wrapping around my name in a way that made my stomach flip. I should have said no. Should have turned and walked out, maintained the professional distance I'd carefully constructed over 24 months of working in close proximity to the most dangerous man I'd ever met. But today, on this ordinary Tuesday afternoon, I'd reached my breaking point. Actually, yes. I closed the office door, my hand lingering on the brass handle. There is something else. Now Lorenzo looked up, his dark eyes, almost black in certain light, deep brown in others, fixing on me with that intensity that made me feel simultaneously seen and exposed. Close the door for good news or bad news? I'm not sure yet. I moved toward his desk, my sensible heels clicking on the marble floor. Every step felt monumental, like crossing a bridge I could never uncross. That depends on your answer. One elegant eyebrow rose, a gesture I'd seen him use to intimidate business rivals and discourage unwanted questions. You have my attention, Lily. What is it? My carefully rehearsed speech evaporated. All the eloquent words I'd planned, all the rational explanations for what I was about to say, disappeared like smoke. I was left with only truth, raw and terrifying. I'm in love with you. The silence that followed was absolute. Lorenzo went completely still, his expression shifting from mild curiosity to something harder, colder. Outside, the city hummed with afternoon traffic, but inside this office, time seemed to suspend. "Lily," he began, his tone already dismissive. "Let me finish." The words rushed out before I could stop them. I know this is unprofessional. I know I'm breaking every rule in the employee handbook. But I've been in love with you for over a year, and I can't keep pretending I'm not. Every day I come in here and act like you're just my boss, like my heart doesn't race when you say my name, like I don't memorize every word you speak to me. I was rambling now, but I couldn't stop. 2 years of suppressed feelings poured out in a desperate flood. I know who you are, Lorenzo. I know what you do, what you're involved in. I'm not naive enough to think you're just a legitimate businessman. And I don't care. I see how you treat the people loyal to you, how you protect what's yours. I see the man beneath the reputation, and that's the man I fell in love with. Lorenzo stood, moving around his desk with that predatory grace I'd noticed from day one. He stopped close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and uniquely him, cedar and bergamot with notes of danger. You don't know what you're saying. His voice was low, controlled, but I heard the warning beneath. You don't know what it means to love someone like me. Then tell me. I lifted my chin, meeting his gaze despite the fear clawing at my throat. Tell me why I shouldn't love you. Give me a reason beyond the danger, beyond the business. Tell me you don't feel anything for me, and I'll never mention it again. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or regret. His hand came up, and for one desperate moment, I thought he might touch my face, might pull me close and kiss me the way I'd imagined countless times. Instead, his jaw tightened and he stepped back, putting deliberate distance between us. You're a good secretary, Lily. Efficient, discreet, loyal. I would hate to lose you over a misguided infatuation. The words hit like a physical blow. Misguided infatuation. As if 2 years of carefully hidden love could be dismissed so easily. That's it? My voice cracked despite my efforts to stay composed. That's all you have to say? What did you expect? His tone turned harsh, the warmth I sometimes glimpsed completely absent now. That I'd sweep you into my arms? Declare my undying devotion? This isn't a romance novel, Lily. This is real life, my life, and there's no place in it for emotional entanglements. Emotional entanglements. I repeated the clinical phrase, feeling something inside me crack. Is that what I am to you? An entanglement? You're my secretary. He returned to his desk, picking up his pen as though the conversation was over. A valued employee, nothing more. If you can't maintain that professional boundary, then perhaps you should consider finding another position. The dismissal was clear, brutal in its efficiency. I stood there for another moment, waiting for him to look up, to show any sign that this was difficult for him too. But Lorenzo had perfected the art of emotional distance, and he wielded it now like the weapon it was. I understand. I forced the words out through the tightness in my throat. I'll have the Romano contract ready for your signature by end of day. I made it to the door before his voice stopped me. Lily. Hope flared, stupid and desperate. I turned back. Don't let this interfere with your work. I need you focused. The hope died as quickly as it had ignited. Of course, Mr. DeLuca. Always professional. I fled to my desk, grateful that the outer office was empty. Marco, Lorenzo's right-hand man, had taken the afternoon to handle some business I definitely didn't want details about. I sank into my chair, staring blindly at my computer screen as humiliation washed over me in waves. Misguided infatuation, valued employee, nothing more. I'd known rejection was possible, even probable. But I'd underestimated how much it would hurt to hear him dismiss my feelings so completely, so coldly. Like I was a child who'd developed a crush on a teacher, rather than a woman who'd spent 2 years learning every nuance of his moods, every subtle tell, every rare moment of vulnerability he showed. My phone buzzed with a text. Lucas Morrison, again. He'd been asking me out for months, persistent but respectful, accepting my polite refusals with good humor. His latest message was simple. Dinner Friday? I promise to make you smile. For 2 years, I'd turned Lucas down because some foolish part of me had hoped Lorenzo might eventually notice me as more than efficient help. But Lorenzo had just made it crystal clear that would never happen. I typed a response before I could overthink it. Yes, dinner sounds perfect. If Lorenzo DeLuca wanted professional boundaries, then professional boundaries he would get. And if I needed to move on, to forget these feelings that apparently meant nothing to him, then maybe Lucas was exactly what I needed. The door to Lorenzo's office remained closed for the rest of the afternoon. When I finally left at 6 p.m., carefully placing the signed Romano contract in his outbox, he didn't look up from his work. Walking to my car in the parking garage, I allowed myself exactly 5 minutes to cry. 5 minutes to mourn what I'd never actually had, to grieve the future I'd been stupid enough to imagine. Then I wiped my eyes, fixed my makeup, and drove home to my modest apartment with its view of the city skyline. Tomorrow, I would go back to being the perfect secretary, efficient, discreet, professional. I would bury these feelings so deep that Lorenzo would never see them again. And maybe, eventually, I would learn to feel something for Lucas, who actually wanted me, instead of pining for a man who clearly never would. But tonight, alone in my apartment, I let myself feel the full weight of rejection. I'd taken a risk, been brave enough to speak my truth, and been crushed for it. Lorenzo had looked at everything I offered him, my love, my loyalty, my willingness to accept his dangerous world, and found it wanting. The worst part was that I would still go back tomorrow, would still bring him his 3 p.m. espresso, still manage his calendar, still be the one constant in his chaotic world. Because despite the rejection, despite the humiliation, some part of me couldn't let go. Not yet. My phone buzzed again. Lucas, confirming Friday's plans with an enthusiasm that should have been flattering but just felt exhausting. I responded with appropriate warmth, playing the part of a woman excited for a date. Maybe if I pretended long enough, it would become true. The week following my disastrous confession passed in a blur of forced normalcy. I arrived at the office each morning at exactly 8:30, prepared Lorenzo's morning briefing, managed his calls and meetings with ruthless efficiency, and left at 6 p.m. without lingering. Professional boundaries, just as he'd requested. Lorenzo, for his part, acted as though our conversation had never happened. His demeanor remained unchanged, cool, professional, occasionally appreciative of a job well done. If he noticed that I no longer met his eyes for longer than necessary, that I kept physical distance between us, that the easy rapport we'd built over 2 years had fractured into something brittle and careful, he gave no indication. It was Marco who noticed first. "You're different this week," he observed on Thursday afternoon, leaning against my desk while Lorenzo was in a meeting. Marco Santini had been Lorenzo's second-in-command for over a decade, a loyal soldier who'd risen through the ranks to become trusted advisor. He was also perceptive in ways that made him dangerous. "I don't know what you mean," I continued typing, refusing to look up. "You and the boss. Something happened. It wasn't a question. You're being too polite, too distant. You used to argue with him about his schedule, tell him when he was being unreasonable. Now you just say, 'Yes, Mr. DeLuca,' and do whatever he wants." "Isn't that what a good secretary does?" "A good secretary, yes, but you were more than that. You were the only person who called him on his bullshit." Marco's eyes narrowed. "What did he do?" "Nothing." The lie came easily. "I'm simply maintaining appropriate professional boundaries. Isn't that what everyone wants?" Marco studied me for a long moment, then shook his head. "Lorenzo's an idiot sometimes. Brilliant in business. Absolutely stupid when it comes to—" He stopped himself, glancing toward the closed conference room door. "Never mind. Not my place." But the damage was done. His unfinished sentence hung in the air, confirming what I'd suspected. That maybe my feelings hadn't been as invisible as I'd thought. That maybe others had seen what Lorenzo himself refused to acknowledge. Friday arrived with the kind of crisp October weather that made the city beautiful. Lucas picked me up at my apartment at 7, looking handsome in a navy blazer and holding flowers, yellow roses, cheerful and appropriate. "You look stunning," he said, and his appreciation seemed genuine. I'd chosen a deep green dress that hugged my curves without being inappropriate, paired with heels that added 3 inches to my modest height. My dark blonde hair fell in waves past my shoulders, and I'd taken care with my makeup, wanting to look like a woman on a date rather than Lorenzo's efficient secretary. "Thank you." I accepted the flowers, breathing in their subtle fragrance. "Let me just put these in water." Lucas was everything a woman should want. Handsome, with sandy hair and warm brown eyes. Successful, he owned a chain of upscale gyms across the city. Kind, patient, genuinely interested in getting to know me. Over dinner at an Italian restaurant that was nice but not presumptuous, he asked about my family, my interests, my dreams. "So you've been working for DeLuca for 2 years." He topped off my wine glass. "That's got to be intense. The man's a legend in business circles." "He's a demanding boss," I said carefully. "But fair. I've learned a lot." "Is that all he is? A boss?" The question was casual, but Lucas watched me closely. "Because I've asked you out probably a dozen times over the past few months, and you always said no. I figured there was someone else." I took a sip of wine, buying time. There was, or I thought there was. I was wrong. His loss. Lucas reached across the table, covering my hand with his. "I know this is only our first date, Lily, but I want you to know I'm serious about you. Have been for a while. I'm not looking for something casual." The honesty in his voice should have touched me. Instead, I felt trapped, like I was being offered something I should want, but couldn't quite bring myself to accept. But Lucas deserved better than a woman still hung up on a man who'd rejected her. "I appreciate that," I said, not pulling my hand away. "I'm not looking for casual either." We talked for another hour, and by the time Lucas walked me to my door, I'd almost convinced myself that this could work, that I could learn to want his kindness instead of craving Lorenzo's dangerous intensity, that I could build something real with a man who actually wanted me back. "I'd like to see you again," Lucas said at my door. "Tomorrow, if you're free. Or Sunday, or whenever you want." His eagerness was endearing. "Sunday," I decided. "Sunday sounds good." He kissed me then, gentle and respectful, asking permission with his eyes before his lips met mine. It was nice, pleasant. Everything a first kiss should be. It just didn't set my world on fire the way I'd imagined Lorenzo's kiss would. The following week, Lucas and I fell into an easy pattern. Dinner on Tuesday, a movie on Thursday, brunch on Sunday. He was attentive without being suffocating, romantic without being over the top. And when he asked me to be his girlfriend 3 weeks after our first date, I said yes. Because what was the alternative? Continue pining for a man who'd made it clear I was nothing more than an employee? Spend my life wondering what could have been if Lorenzo had felt the same way? Lucas was safe. Lucas was available. Lucas was everything sensible. It was Marco who noticed the change first. Again. "You're dating someone." He stated it as fact, watching me type up meeting notes. "Is that a problem? Does Lorenzo know?" I finally looked up, irritation flaring. "Why would Lorenzo need to know about my personal life? I'm his secretary, nothing more. He made that very clear." Marco's eyes widened slightly. "So you did tell him?" The confirmation hung between us. I'd essentially admitted what had happened, and from the sympathy in Marco's expression, he understood exactly how that conversation had gone. "Lily, don't." I cut him off. "Whatever you're going to say, don't. I'm moving on. It's what I should have done a long time ago." He nodded slowly. "This guy you're seeing, is he good to you?" "Very good." But Marco didn't look happy about it. "You deserve someone who appreciates what they have." 6 weeks after my confession to Lorenzo, Lucas took me to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in the city. I knew what was coming before we even sat down. He'd been dropping hints all week about having something important to ask me, about our future, about taking the next step. The ring box appeared between the appetizer and the main course, velvet and small and terrifying in its implications. "Lily Martinez," Lucas said, his smile wide and hopeful. "I know this might seem fast to some people, but when you know, you know. I love you. I love your strength, your intelligence, your dedication to everything you do. I want to build a life with you. Will you marry me?" The diamond caught the candlelight, throwing rainbow sparks across the white tablecloth. It was beautiful. A classic solitaire, elegant and appropriate. Everything a woman should want. I should have felt joy. Should have felt excited about this next chapter, this chance at a real future with a man who genuinely loved me. Instead, I felt numb, disconnected, watching this moment happen to someone else. But what was I waiting for? For Lorenzo to suddenly realize he'd made a mistake. For him to confess feelings he clearly didn't have. I'd already humiliated myself once. I wasn't stupid enough to do it again. Yes, I heard myself say. Yes, I'll marry you. Lucas's face lit up with pure happiness as he slipped the ring onto my finger. Around us, other diners applauded, strangers celebrating a moment they knew nothing about. The weight of the diamond felt foreign, wrong, like someone else's jewelry mistakenly placed on my hand. But I smiled and let Lucas kiss me. Let him order champagne to celebrate. Let him make plans for our future while my mind remained carefully blank. I wore the ring to work on Monday. Wore it deliberately, visibly, wanting to prove something to myself, if not to Lorenzo. That I'd moved on. That his rejection hadn't destroyed me. That I was capable of building a life that didn't revolve around a man who didn't want me. The morning passed normally. Lorenzo had an early meeting with his accountants, then conference calls with the West Coast investors. I managed everything with my usual efficiency, and if my left hand felt heavier than usual, if I kept catching the diamond's sparkle in my peripheral vision, I ignored it. It was just past 2 when Lorenzo emerged from his office, jacket off and sleeves rolled up. His signal that he was between calls and needed his afternoon espresso. The Castellano meeting has been moved to Wednesday, I said, already preparing his coffee exactly how he liked it. And the permits for the waterfront development came through. I've forwarded them to legal for review. Good. He took the cup I offered, his fingers brushing mine briefly. The contact sent the familiar electric shock through me, the one I'd been trying to ignore for weeks. Anything else I should... He stopped mid-sentence, his gaze dropping to my left hand. The silence stretched, thickened. I watched his eyes fix on the engagement ring, watched something dark and dangerous flash across his features before his expression locked down into that impenetrable mask. You're engaged. His voice was flat, emotionless. Yes. I lifted my chin. Lucas proposed on Friday. Lucas. Lorenzo repeated the name like it tasted bad. The gym owner. He owns a very successful chain of fitness centers, actually. Why was I defending Lucas? We've been dating for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Lorenzo set down his espresso cup with deliberate care. And you're already engaged. When you know, you know. I repeated Lucas's words, watching for any reaction. Lorenzo's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Congratulations. I'm sure you'll be very happy. The words were proper, appropriate, exactly what a boss should say. But his eyes told a different story. They burned with something that looked almost like fury. Thank you. I turned to go back to my desk, considering the conversation finished. Lily. His voice stopped me at the door. I looked back. Lorenzo stood behind his desk, hands braced on the mahogany surface, his posture radiating tension. For a long moment, he just looked at me, his dark eyes searching my face as though memorizing every detail. Take it off, he said finally, his voice low and dangerous. Excuse me? The ring. He straightened, moving around the desk toward me. Take it off. I took an instinctive step back. I don't think that's appropriate. Take it off, Lily. He was close now, too close, invading my space in a way he never had before. Because you're not marrying him. My heart hammered against my ribs. You don't get to. You're marrying me. The words hit like a physical force, stealing my breath, my thoughts, my ability to form coherent responses. I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. That stress and wishful thinking had combined to create an auditory hallucination. What? Lorenzo's hand came up, his fingers tilting my chin so I had to meet his eyes. The careful distance he'd maintained for weeks dissolved completely. You heard me, Lily Martinez. You're not marrying Lucas Morrison. You're marrying me. My brain struggled to process what was happening. Lorenzo De Luca, the man who'd dismissed my feelings as a misguided infatuation 6 weeks ago, was now standing inches away, touching my face, and declaring that I would marry him instead. You can't be serious. I pulled away from his touch, needing distance to think. 6 weeks ago, you made it very clear that I was nothing more than your secretary, that there was no place in your life for emotional entanglements. I know what I said. And now you've changed your mind? Just like that? Anger was replacing shock, hot and righteous. Because I'm engaged to someone else? That's not romantic, Lorenzo. That's controlling. I never said I'd change my mind. His voice was maddeningly calm. I said there was no place in my life for emotional entanglements. That was true then, and it's true now. Then what the hell are you talking about? He moved to his office door, closed it with a soft click that seemed thunderous in the charged atmosphere. When he turned back, some of his careful control had cracked, revealing the intensity beneath. I rejected you to protect you, Lily, to keep you away from the darkness of my world. But clearly, that plan failed spectacularly, because here you are, engaged to another man, and I can't. He stopped, his hands clenching into fists. I can't let that happen. You don't get to make that choice. My voice shook with suppressed emotion. You rejected me. You had your chance, and you threw it away. I'm moving on with someone who actually wants me. I've always wanted you. The admission was raw, torn from somewhere deep. Every single day for the past 2 years I've wanted you. Do you think it was easy, keeping my distance? Maintaining that professional boundary while you moved through my office, my life, becoming essential to everything I do? I laughed, the sound bitter. You have a strange way of showing it. Because wanting you and keeping you are 2 different things. He moved closer again, and this time I didn't retreat. My enemies would use you against me, Lily. They'd hurt you to get to me. I've seen it happen. Good people destroyed because someone I cared about became a target. I couldn't let that happen to you. So you pushed me away instead. Humiliated me. Made me feel like an idiot for loving you. Tears threatened, but I blinked them back. And now you want me to just forget all that? To break off my engagement and come running because you've suddenly decided I'm worth the risk? No. His hand came up again, cupping my face with devastating gentleness. I want you to understand that I made a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. I thought I was protecting you, but all I did was push you into another man's arms. And the thought of you marrying him, of you belonging to anyone else, it's killing me, Lily. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something inside me. This was the Lorenzo I'd glimpsed in rare moments. The man beneath the armor, capable of feeling things he'd spent a lifetime learning to hide. You hurt me. The words came out small, wounded. You made me feel stupid and worthless. I know. His thumb traced my cheekbone, catching a tear I hadn't felt fall. And I will spend every day for the rest of my life making up for that, if you give me the chance. But first, you need to take off that ring and tell Lucas Morrison the wedding is off. The audacity of his demand sparked my temper again. You're not listening. You don't get to order me around in my personal life just because you're my boss. I'm not ordering you as your boss. His other hand found my waist, pulling me closer. I'm asking you as the man who's been in love with you for longer than he wants to admit. The man who pushed you away because he was too much of a coward to risk your safety. The man who is now willing to risk everything. His control. His carefully maintained distance. His entire empire. To make you his. My breath caught. You love me? Desperately, dangerously, completely. His forehead touched mine, his voice dropping to a whisper. I love you so much it terrifies me, Lily, but not as much as the thought of losing you to someone else. So yes, I'm asking you to take off that ring. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove that what I feel for you is worth more than safety, or sense, or any rational reason to stay away. I should have said no, should have held firm, protected my heart from a man who'd already proven he could hurt me. Lucas was safe, predictable, uncomplicated. Lorenzo was none of those things. But Lucas had never made my heart race with just a look, had never consumed my thoughts from the moment I woke until I fell asleep, had never felt like gravity itself, pulling me towards something inevitable and impossible to resist. If I do this, I said carefully, if I break off my engagement and give you a chance, I need promises from you. Anything. No more pushing me away to protect me. If we're doing this, we're doing it together, danger and all. I need you to trust me to make my own choices. Done. And no more lying about your feelings. If you love me, I need to hear it. Not just once, but regularly. I need to know where I stand with you. I love you. He said it immediately, fiercely. I love you, Lily Martinez, and I'll say it every day for the rest of our lives, if that's what you need. And I stopped, looking up into those dark eyes that had haunted my dreams. And you have to mean it. Not just possession or desire, or not wanting someone else to have me. Real love, Lorenzo. The kind that makes you vulnerable. The kind that gives me the power to hurt you just as much as you can hurt me. Something shifted in his expression. Fear, maybe, or recognition of what I was asking. To love me the way I needed meant letting down every wall he'd built, every defense mechanism that kept him safe in his dangerous world. You already have that power. His voice was rough with emotion. You've had it since the day you walked into my office for your interview, nervous and determined and absolutely perfect. I'm already vulnerable to you, Lily. The question is whether you're brave enough to accept that and still choose me. The challenge hung between us, weighted with possibility and risk. This wasn't a fairy tale. Lorenzo came with baggage and danger, and a world I only partially understood. Choosing him meant accepting all of that, stepping into shadows I'd spent 2 years carefully avoiding. But it also meant having what I'd wanted since the beginning. This man. All of him. Without barriers or pretense. I reached down and slid Lucas's engagement ring off my finger. The diamond caught the light one last time before I set it on Lorenzo's desk, a symbol of a future I was choosing to abandon. I'm brave enough, I said. The question is whether you are. Lorenzo's answer was to kiss me, finally, after 2 years of denied desire and suppressed longing. His mouth claimed mine with an intensity that stole my breath, his hands tangling in my hair, his body pressing me back against the door. This wasn't gentle or tentative. It was possession and promise and barely restrained need. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were nearly black with desire. Mine, he breathed against my lips. Say it, Lily. Tell me you're mine. Yours. The word felt like surrender and victory simultaneously. But Lorenzo, you're mine too. That's the deal. No more walls, no more distance. If I'm yours, you're completely mine. I've been yours since the beginning. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining. I was just too stubborn to admit it. A knock at the door made us both freeze. Marco's voice came through the wood. "Boss, the Castellano call is in 5 minutes." Reality crashed back. We were standing in Lorenzo's office, disheveled and compromised, with his right-hand man just outside and a conference call about to start. "I'll be ready," Lorenzo called back, not taking his eyes off me. "Tell them 2 minutes." We heard Marco's footsteps retreat, and Lorenzo touched his forehead to mine again. "I have to take this call. It's important." "I know. But after, we're finishing this conversation, and you're going to call Lucas and tell him the engagement is off." The mention of Lucas sent guilt flooding through me. He didn't deserve this, to be broken up with over the phone, to have his proposal rejected after I'd already said yes. But continuing the engagement when my heart belonged to someone else would be crueler. "I'll tell him in person," I said. "He deserves that much." Lorenzo's jaw tightened. "Fine, but you're not going alone." "I don't need a bodyguard to break up with my fiancé." Ex-fiancé. His hand cupped my face again. "And I'm not sending a bodyguard. I'm coming with you. I want him to see exactly who you're choosing instead." The possessiveness in his voice should have annoyed me. Instead, it sent a thrill through my system. This was Lorenzo without his careful control, raw and jealous, and absolutely certain of his claim. That seems unnecessarily cruel. "I don't care." His eyes hardened. "Lucas Morrison had 6 weeks with you. 6 weeks of dinners and dates and whatever else, while I forced myself to maintain distance. Now those 6 weeks are over, and I'm done pretending I'm okay with another man touching what's mine." "Possessive, much? You have no idea." His smile was dangerous. "But you're about to find out. When I said you're mine, Lily, I meant it in every possible way. No other men, no uncertainty about where you stand. You belong to me now, and everyone, including Lucas Morrison, needs to understand that." I should have argued, should have insisted on independence and autonomy. But the truth was, some part of me loved his possessiveness. After weeks of feeling unwanted, of questioning my worth, having Lorenzo declare absolute ownership was intoxicating. "Then you should probably know," I said, looking up at him through my lashes, "that possessiveness goes both ways. If I'm yours, then you're mine too. No other women. No keeping parts of yourself separate. Complete honesty. Complete commitment." "Done." He didn't hesitate. "There haven't been other women for months anyway. Not since I admitted to myself how I felt about you." That admission sent warmth spreading through my chest. "Really?" "Really. Why would I want anyone else when the only woman I want works at the desk outside my office, drives me insane with her efficiency, and looks at me like I'm both salvation and damnation?" "I broke off an engagement for you," I reminded him. "You're definitely more damnation than salvation." "Good." He kissed me again, briefer but no less intense. I'd hate to be predictable. The phone on his desk buzzed. Marco's signal that the Castellano call was about to start. Lorenzo released me with obvious reluctance, straightening his tie and running a hand through his hair to fix the damage my fingers had caused. "Tonight," he said. "We'll talk to Lucas tonight, and then you're coming home with me." "Home with you? Did you think I'd let you go back to your apartment alone after this?" His smile was predatory. "No, Lily. You're mine now, which means you're under my protection. Starting tonight, you stay where I can keep you safe." That's moving pretty fast. We've waited 2 years already. I'm done waiting. He moved toward his desk, every inch the powerful boss again. "Go make yourself presentable. When you come back, I want that ring locked in your desk drawer, and I want you wearing something that makes it clear you're no longer available." The command should have irritated me. Instead, it made me smile. "Yes, Mr. DeLuca." His eyes darkened at the formal address. "When we're alone, you call me Lorenzo. Or better yet, you call me yours." I left his office on shaking legs, my mind reeling from how completely my world had shifted in the past 20 minutes. From engaged to one man to claimed by another, from resigned acceptance to desperate hope, from professional distance to promised intimacy. The engagement ring sat on my desk like an accusation. I picked it up, studying the diamond that had represented a safe, predictable future, and felt nothing but relief that I was putting it away. Lucas deserved honesty. He deserved to know that my heart had never fully belonged to him, that I'd said yes to his proposal while still in love with someone else. It would hurt him, and I hated that. But leading him on would hurt worse. My phone buzzed with a text from Lorenzo. "After the call, we're going shopping. You need a new ring." My heart stuttered. A new ring. His ring. I texted back, "Isn't that moving a little fast?" His response was immediate. "I let you go once, never making that mistake again. You're getting my ring on your finger before you have time to change your mind." The certainty in his words should have scared me. This was crazy, reckless, moving at a speed that defied logic. But standing in that office, my lips still tingling from his kiss, I couldn't bring myself to care about logic. Sometimes the heart knew what it wanted, even when the head counseled caution. And mine had always wanted Lorenzo De Luca. The Castellano call lasted 45 minutes. I could hear Lorenzo's voice through the closed door, speaking in rapid Italian with the intensity that meant serious business was being conducted. I used the time to compose myself, fix my makeup, and figure out what I was going to say to Lucas. When Lorenzo finally emerged, he looked like the powerful mob boss the city whispered about, all controlled danger and absolute authority. But when his eyes found mine, they softened into something warmer, more vulnerable. "Ready?" He held out his hand. "For shopping or for breaking Lucas's heart?" "Both." There was no apology in his voice. Though I'm significantly more interested in the first than sympathetic about the second. I took his hand, feeling the rightness of it. How perfectly our fingers fit together. How his palm was calloused from more than just signing documents. How the simple contact sent electricity up my arm. Marco appeared from the hallway, took one look at our joined hands and grinned. "About damn time." "You knew?" I asked. "Everyone knew except you two idiots." Marco's expression turned serious as he looked at Lorenzo. "The Castellano situation? Handled. They'll back off on the waterfront development." Lorenzo's thumb stroked across my knuckles absently, as though he couldn't help touching me now that he'd started. "Clear my schedule for the rest of the day." "Already done. And boss?" Marco's eyes moved to me. "She's going to need proper security now. If word gets out that she's yours..." "I'm aware." Lorenzo's hand tightened on mine. "Antonio and his team will be assigned to her full-time, starting tomorrow. Tonight, she stays with me." The casual way he discussed my life being reorganized should have bothered me. Instead, I felt a strange sense of relief. Lorenzo's world was dangerous, but it was also protected. Being his meant having resources I'd never dreamed of, security that extended beyond locks and alarm systems. "I should call Lucas," I said, as Lorenzo led me toward the private elevator. "Warn him we're coming." "No warning." Lorenzo's voice was firm. "I want to see his face when you tell him. That's cruel. That's possession." He pulled me into the elevator, pressing the button for the parking garage. As soon as the doors closed, he backed me against the wall, his body caging mine. "I spent 6 weeks watching him touch you, kiss you, claim what should have been mine all along. So yes, I want to see his face when he realizes he's lost you. Call it cruel if you want. I call it satisfaction." His mouth found mine again, and this time there was nothing gentle about it. This was claiming, branding, making absolutely certain I understood what I'd agreed to. His hands gripped my waist, holding me steady as he kissed me until I was breathless and trembling. When the elevator dinged at the parking garage, we were both disheveled again. Lorenzo's tie was crooked, my lipstick was smudged, and there was no hiding what we'd been doing. Lorenzo led me to his car, a sleek black Mercedes that probably cost more than I made in 5 years. He opened my door himself, a gesture of courtesy that seemed at odds with his ruthless reputation. "Where does Lucas live?" he asked, as he slid into the driver's seat. I gave him the address, watching the city pass by as Lorenzo navigated through afternoon traffic. His right hand found mine again, resting on my thigh, another casual possession that felt monumental. "Nervous?" he asked. "Yes. Lucas is a good man. He doesn't deserve to be hurt." "But you don't love him." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "No, I tried to, but I couldn't stop." I stopped, unsure how much to admit. "Couldn't stop loving me?" Lorenzo glanced over, his dark eyes intense. "Say it, Lily. I need to hear you say it." "I couldn't stop loving you." The admission felt like freedom. Even when I was trying to move on, even when I told myself you'd never want me, I couldn't make myself feel for Lucas what I felt for you. "What do you feel for me?" His voice had gone quiet, almost vulnerable. "Tell me exactly." I took a breath, deciding on complete honesty. "I feel like you're gravity and I'm helpless to resist. I feel like every moment we're apart, I'm only half alive. I feel like I'd follow you into darkness if you asked, even knowing the danger. I feel like..." My voice cracked. "Like I've been yours since the beginning, even when you didn't want me. I always wanted you." He brought my hand to his lips, kissing my knuckles. "Every single day. I'd watch you work, watch you move through my office like you owned it. And I'd think about all the ways I wanted to claim you. But wanting you and deserving you are different things. And you think you deserve me now?" "No." His honesty startled me. "I don't deserve you, Lily. But I'm selfish enough to take you anyway. To bind you to me in every way possible before you realize what a mistake you're making." "I'm not making a mistake." "You say that now." His jaw tightened. "Wait until you see the full reality of my world. The enemies, the violence, the things I have to do to maintain power. You might change your mind. Then trust me enough to let me make that choice." I squeezed his hand. "You said no more pushing me away to protect me. That starts now, Lorenzo. You don't get to decide what I can handle." We pulled up to Lucas's building, a nice condo complex in a good neighborhood, exactly the kind of safe, predictable place someone like him would choose. Lorenzo found a parking spot and turned off the engine, but didn't immediately get out. "Last chance," he said. "You can go up there alone if you want. I'll wait here." I looked at this man, this dangerous, complicated, absolutely certain man, and made my choice. "No. You're coming with me. He needs to see what I'm choosing, who I'm choosing. It's the only way to make it real." Lorenzo's smile was pure satisfaction. He came around to open my door, offering his hand as I stepped out. We walked into the building together, his hand on the small of my back in a gesture that was equal parts protective and possessive. Lucas answered his door on the second knock, his face lighting up when he saw me. "Lily, this is a nice surprise. I thought we weren't seeing each other until..." He stopped, noticing Lorenzo. "Oh, hi. Is everything okay? Can we come in?" My voice was steadier than I felt. "We need to talk." Something in my tone made Lucas's expression shift from happy to wary. He stepped back, allowing us entry. His apartment was exactly what I'd expected. Clean, modern, decorated with the kind of generic art you bought to fill space. Everything in its place. Nothing surprising or dangerous or complicated. Safe, like Lucas himself. Who's this? Lucas looked between us, and I saw the moment recognition dawned. Wait, you're Lorenzo DeLuca, her boss. Among other things. Lorenzo's voice was cool, controlled. Lily has something to tell you. I shot Lorenzo a look. This was hard enough without him making it worse. But he just raised an eyebrow, waiting, making it clear he wasn't going to make this easier for me. Lucas, I'm sorry. I pulled the engagement ring from my purse, holding it out. I can't marry you. He stared at the ring, then at me, confusion and hurt warring in his expression. What? Why? Did I do something wrong? No, you've been wonderful. Perfect, actually, but I glanced at Lorenzo, then back to Lucas. I'm in love with someone else. I have been for a long time. I thought I could get over it, that I could build something real with you. But I can't. It's not fair to either of us. Someone else. Lucas's gaze moved to Lorenzo, understanding dawning. Your boss. You're in love with your boss. Yes. And you? Lucas addressed Lorenzo directly, anger creeping into his voice. You're just going to stand there looking smug while she breaks off our engagement? Yes. Lorenzo didn't flinch from the accusation. Because she's mine, Morrison. She's always been mine. You were just a placeholder while we figured that out. Lorenzo, I started, but Lucas cut me off. A placeholder? We were together for 6 weeks. We were engaged. She said yes to me. She said yes to you while wearing my secretary's smile. Lorenzo stepped forward, and I felt the threat radiating off him. The one she uses when she's being polite, but doesn't mean it. I've seen that smile for 2 years. I know the difference between Lily being professional and Lily actually being happy. You got professional. I get the real her. The truth of it stung, but Lucas deserved honesty. He's right. I'm sorry, Lucas. I tried to love you the way you deserve, but I couldn't. My heart was already taken. Lucas looked at me for a long moment, then at the ring still in my outstretched hand. Keep it. Sell it, throw it away, I don't care, just... His voice cracked. Just go. Both of you. Guilt twisted in my stomach. Lucas, I'm so sorry. Please leave. He turned away, his shoulders tight with suppressed emotion. Lorenzo's hand found the small of my back, guiding me toward the door. I wanted to say something else, to offer comfort or explanation. But what could I say? I'd accepted his proposal knowing I loved someone else. I'd hurt him, and no amount of apologizing would change that. We left in silence, the door closing behind us with finality. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, processing what had just happened. That was awful, I whispered. That was necessary. Lorenzo pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me. He'll get over it. You gave him 6 weeks, Lily. He didn't get time to build his entire world around you. It'll hurt, but he'll recover. You sound very certain. Because I know what it feels like to lose you. His voice was rough. I spent 6 weeks in hell, watching him have what should have been mine, imagining a future where you married him and I lost you forever. That's not happening. Whatever guilt you feel now, know that keeping you is worth it to me. I looked up at him. This man who'd claimed me so completely. What happens now? Now? His smile was dangerous and promising. Now I take you shopping for a ring that makes it clear you're mine. Then we go to my place, and I spend the rest of the night showing you exactly what it means to belong to me. Heat pooled in my stomach at the promise in his voice. That's very presumptuous. That's very honest. He tilted my chin up, his dark eyes boring into mine. I've waited 2 years, Lily. I'm done waiting. Tonight, you become mine in every possible way. Unless you're going to tell me you're not ready? I should have said I needed time, that we were moving too fast, that we should slow down and do this properly. But standing there with Lorenzo's arms around me, his scent surrounding me, his certainty wrapping around us like armor, I didn't want slow or proper. I wanted him. All of him. Finally. "I'm ready," I whispered. His kiss was both promise and possession, a preview of the night to come. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were nearly black with desire. "Then let's go make it official." The jewelry store Lorenzo took me to wasn't the kind of place I'd ever been before. It was in a building with no sign, just a discreet bronze plaque beside a heavy door. Inside, the space was more like someone's elegant living room than a retail establishment. Plush seating, soft lighting, artwork on the walls, and a single display case with perhaps a dozen pieces. A distinguished older man appeared immediately, his face lighting up when he saw Lorenzo. "Mr. De Luca, what a pleasure. How can I serve you today?" "Engagement ring, Giovanni." Lorenzo kept his arm around my waist, holding me close against his side. "Something that makes it clear she's mine. Cost is irrelevant." Giovanni's eyes moved to me, assessing but not unkind. "Of course. Please sit. I'll bring some options." We settled onto a velvet sofa, while Giovanni disappeared into a back room. I looked around, trying not to calculate how much each piece in the display case cost. The smallest ring visible probably exceeded my yearly salary. "This is too much," I said quietly. "Nothing is too much for you." Lorenzo's hand found mine, his thumb stroking across my bare ring finger. "You're going to be my wife, Lily. That means you wear jewelry that reflects that position." "Your wife." The word still felt surreal. "We haven't actually discussed that, you know. You just declared it. Because it's inevitable." His dark eyes held mine. "Did you think I'd make you mine halfway? Put my ring on your finger and not follow through?" "No, Lily. You're going to be Mrs. Lorenzo De Luca. The only question is how quickly we can make that happen." Most couples date for a while before getting engaged. We've known each other for 2 years. I know how you take your coffee, how you organize your files, how you tap your pen when you're thinking. I know you're brilliant and loyal and stubborn as hell. I know you challenge me when everyone else just agrees. I know... His voice softened. "I know I love you, and that's enough." Giovanni returned before I could respond, carrying a velvet tray with half a dozen rings. Each was more stunning than the last. Emeralds and sapphires and diamonds in settings that looked like they belonged in museums. "The lady's coloring would suit the sapphire particularly well," Giovanni suggested, lifting a ring with a deep blue stone surrounded by diamonds. "But the emerald is also exceptional." Lorenzo picked up the emerald ring, studying it. "What do you think, Lily?" "I think they're all beautiful and completely impractical for everyday wear." His smile was indulgent. "That's because you're thinking like my secretary instead of my wife. Try this one." He slid the emerald ring onto my finger, and even I had to admit it was stunning. The stone caught the light, throwing green fire across my skin, and the platinum band felt substantial, real. "It suits you," Lorenzo said, his voice carrying a note of satisfaction. "Green for loyalty, the virtue I value most." "I thought you'd pick a diamond." "Diamonds are traditional, you're not." His hand covered mine, the ring trapped between our palms. "Besides, the emerald reminds me of the dress you wore on your date with Lucas. The one I wanted to rip off you while watching him touch what was mine." "Possessive," I murmured, but I was smiling. "Always." He looked at Giovanni. "We'll take this one, and I'll need a matching wedding band." "Of course, Mr. De Luca. I have several designs that would complement." "Actually," Lorenzo's hand tightened on mine, "show us men's bands too. If Lily's wearing my ring, I'm wearing hers. The statement sent warmth flooding through me. In his world, wives wore their husband's jewelry as a sign of possession. But Lorenzo was offering reciprocity, marking himself as mine just as publicly as I'd be marked as his. "You don't have to do that," I said. "I want to." His eyes held mine. "I want everyone to see that I'm taken, that I belong to someone. I want your ring on my finger, Lily, so every woman who looks at me knows I'm yours." Giovanni brought out another tray, this time with men's bands in various metals and styles. Lorenzo studied them critically, then picked up a simple platinum band that matched the metal of my engagement ring. "This one," he decided. "Classic, substantial, unmistakable. Like my commitment to you." He slid it onto his left ring finger, and seeing it there, this physical symbol of his claim on me and mine on him, made everything suddenly, startlingly real. We were doing this. Actually doing this. "The wedding bands will take approximately 2 weeks to size and finish," Giovanni said. "Unless you need them sooner?" 2 weeks is fine." Lorenzo stood, pulling me up with him. "We'll be married within the month anyway." My eyes widened. "A month? Too long?" His smile was dangerous. "I was trying to be reasonable. We could fly to Vegas tonight if you prefer." "Lorenzo." "I'm joking, mostly." He pulled me close, his hand cupping my face. "But understand this, Lily. I'm not waiting months or years to make you my wife. You already are mine in every way that matters. The ceremony is just making it legal." Giovanni discreetly disappeared to process the purchase, leaving us alone in the elegant showroom. Lorenzo kissed me slowly, thoroughly, until I forgot we were in public. Forgot everything except the feel of his hands and the taste of his mouth. "Take me home," I whispered against his lips. His eyes darkened with desire and promise. "Your place or mine?" "Yours. I want to see where you live." "Then let's go." He pulled back just enough to breathe. "Because once I get you there, Lily, I'm not letting you leave. You understand that, right? Tonight, you become mine completely." I nodded, my heart racing with anticipation and nerves in desperate need. "I understand." The drive to Lorenzo's penthouse felt endless. He lived in the most exclusive building in the city, the kind of place with doormen who knew everyone by name and elevators that required key cards to access certain floors. His penthouse took up the entire top floor. Of course it did. The interior was stunning but surprisingly warm. I'd expected cold minimalism, but instead found rich woods, leather furniture, and artwork that looked personal rather than just expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city spread out below us like a carpet of lights. "It's beautiful," I said, moving to the windows. "It's yours now." Lorenzo came up behind me, his arms wrapping around my waist, pulling my back against his chest. "Everything I have is yours, Lily. This penthouse, my cars, my businesses, all of it. You're not just my wife. You're my partner, my equal in everything." I turned in his arms, looking up at this man who'd claimed me so completely. "I don't want your things, Lorenzo. I just want you. You have me." His hand came up, fingers threading through my hair. "All of me, Lily. Every broken piece, every dangerous edge, every part I've kept hidden from the world. It's yours. Show me." The words came out breathless. "Show me all of you." His kiss was answer and promise, deep and claiming and absolutely certain. He lifted me easily, my legs wrapping around his waist as he carried me through the penthouse to his bedroom. The space was masculine. Dark wood furniture, charcoal linens, more of those floor-to-ceiling windows that made the city our private stage. Lorenzo set me down beside the bed, his hands immediately finding the zipper of my dress. I've imagined this so many times, he murmured against my neck as he slowly drew the zipper down. Having you here, in my bed, finally mine. What did you imagine? My hands worked the buttons of his shirt, revealing the muscled chest I'd only glimpsed before. Everything. The dress pooled at my feet, leaving me in nothing but black lace. His eyes darkened as they traveled over me. I imagined undressing you slowly, learning every inch of skin. I imagined making you say my name until you forgot every other man's. I imagined claiming you so thoroughly that you'd never doubt you were mine. I'm already yours. I pushed his shirt off his shoulders, revealing more of the powerful body I'd only imagined. I've been yours since the beginning. Then let me show you what that means. What followed was both revelation and claiming. Lorenzo worshipping my body with a single-minded intensity that left me gasping and trembling. He took his time, learning what made me arch into his touch, what made me moan his name, what made me beg for more. When he finally claimed me completely, it felt like coming home and falling off a cliff simultaneously. I'd never experienced anything like the intensity of being with Lorenzo. How he looked at me like I was precious and breakable in his. How he touched me with reverence and possession. How he made me feel cherished and owned in equal measure. Afterward, we lay tangled in his sheets, my head on his chest as his fingers traced lazy patterns on my bare shoulder. The emerald on my finger caught the city lights, throwing green sparks across the ceiling. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. "None." I lifted my head to look at him. "You?" "My only regret is the time I wasted pushing you away." His hand cupped my face. "But that's over now. You're mine, Lily Martinez, and I'm never letting you go." "Martinez de Luca," I corrected with a smile. "If we're getting married, I'm keeping part of my name." His eyes warmed with approval. "Martinez de Luca. I like that. Shows you're not just becoming mine. We're becoming each other's." "Exactly." I kissed him softly. "Partners, equals, together." "Together," he agreed, "against the world if necessary." And lying there in his arms, in his bed, wearing his ring and carrying his mark on my skin, I knew he meant it. Whatever challenges came, and they would come, given his world, we'd face them together. I'd chosen Lorenzo de Luca, danger and all, and he'd chosen me right back, completely and without reservation. For the first time in 2 years, everything felt right. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the unfamiliar weight of Lorenzo's arm across my waist. For a moment, I was disoriented. This wasn't my apartment, wasn't my bed. Then memory flooded back, and with it, a rush of warmth. Lorenzo, the ring, the claiming. I turned carefully, not wanting to wake him, and took the opportunity to study him unguarded. Asleep, he looked younger, less dangerous, the hard edges of his face softened by vulnerability. His dark hair was mused from my fingers, and there were marks on his shoulder from my teeth, evidence of how thoroughly we'd claimed each other. "Stop staring," he murmured, eyes still closed. "It's creepy," I laughed, poking his chest. "You're awake." "Have been for 10 minutes. His eyes opened, dark and warm. "Watching you sleep. Who's the creepy one now?" "Still you." But I kissed him anyway, morning breath be damned. "What time is it?" "After 9. His hand found the small of my back, pulling me closer. "We're both late for work." The thought of the office, of facing Marco and the rest of Lorenzo's team after everything that had happened, made anxiety spike through me. "They're going to know." "Good." Lorenzo's voice was firm. "I want them to know you're mine. No more pretending there's nothing between us. No more professional distance." His hand came up, fingers tracing along my jaw. You're not my secretary anymore, Lily. You're my fiancé. That changes everything. I'm still working for you, though. It came out as half question. If you want to, but not as my secretary. I'm promoting you to Executive Director of Operations. More authority, more responsibility, and an office of your own instead of sitting outside mine like an assistant. I pulled back to look at him properly. You can't just promote me because we're engaged. I can do whatever I want. I own the company. His smile was arrogant. Besides, you've been doing executive-level work for 2 years while being paid secretary wages. This just makes it official. He had a point, but I needed him to understand something. Lorenzo, I don't want your money or your position or any of this because we're together. If I'm going to work in your company, I need to earn my place. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe, or approval. That's exactly why you deserve the promotion. Most women would jump at the chance to have power and money handed to them. You're pushing back, insisting on earning it. He kissed me softly. You're not like anyone else, Lily Martinez. That's why I love you. The simple declaration still had the power to steal my breath. Say it again. I love you. He rolled us so I was beneath him, his body covering mine in a delicious weight. I love you, Lily. I'll say it every day for the rest of our lives if that's what you need. It's a start. My hands found his shoulders, pulling him closer. Though you might have to prove it in other ways too. His laugh was low and dangerous. Greedy. Only for you. We arrived at the office just before 11, and the reaction was immediate. Marco took one look at us, at my new ring, at Lorenzo's possessive hand on my back, at the way we moved together, and grinned. Finally, he shook his head. Took you idiots long enough. Careful, Marco. Lorenzo's voice was mild, but the warning was clear. That's my fiancé you're calling an idiot. Fiancé? Marco's eyes widened as he noticed the ring. Damn, boss. You don't do anything halfway, do you? Never. Lorenzo guided me toward his office. Clear my calendar for the next hour. Lily and I need to discuss her new position. Marco's eyebrows rose, but he nodded. New position. Right. Very professional. I felt heat rise to my cheeks, but Lorenzo just laughed. As soon as we were in his office with the door closed, he pulled me close. Alone at last, he murmured against my hair. We're supposed to be discussing my promotion. We will. After. His mouth found mine, and I forgot all about professional boundaries. We were interrupted 20 minutes later by an urgent knock. Marco entered without waiting for permission, his face grim. Boss, we have a problem. The Castellanos just made a move on the waterfront development. They're claiming we violated the agreement. Lorenzo's entire demeanor shifted, from lover to dangerous boss in a heartbeat. Impossible. We held up our end. They're lying. Probably. But they've got the planning commission tied up with injunctions. The whole project could be stalled for months. Marco's eyes flicked to me, then back to Lorenzo. They're testing you, boss, seeing if your new relationship makes you weak. I felt Lorenzo's body tense against mine. This was what he'd warned me about. How his enemies would use me against him, test whether I made him vulnerable. Then we show them exactly how wrong they are. Lorenzo's voice was cold, controlled. Set up a meeting with Marco Castellano. Tonight, neutral ground. Boss. Tonight, Marco. Make it happen. He looked at me, his expression softening slightly. And Lily comes with me. What? Both Marco and I spoke simultaneously. If they think she's my weakness, then she needs to be there when I prove otherwise. Lorenzo's hand found mine, fingers intertwining. She's not my secretary or my assistant. She's my partner. That means she's part of these conversations. Lorenzo, I don't know anything about the waterfront development, I protested. Then I'll teach you. His smile was dangerous. Starting now. Marco, bring me everything on the Castellano agreement. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence we have. Lily needs to be briefed before tonight. The next 8 hours were a crash course in Lorenzo's business empire, both legitimate and otherwise. He walked me through the waterfront development deal, explaining how the Castellanos had agreed to back off in exchange for certain concessions, how the agreement should have kept everyone happy, how their current move was a blatant violation. They're doing this because of me, I said as we reviewed the contracts, testing whether you'll cave to protect me. Yes. Lorenzo didn't soften the truth. Which is why you're coming tonight. Why you're going to sit beside me and show them that you make me stronger, not weaker. And if I mess up, say the wrong thing, you won't. His confidence was absolute. Because you're brilliant, Lily. You've been managing my legitimate business operations for 2 years. You understand strategy and negotiation. You just need to apply those skills to a different context. The meeting was set for 8 p.m. at a restaurant the Castellanos owned. Their territory, their advantage. Lorenzo spent the remaining hours coaching me on the key players, the dynamics, the unspoken rules of engagement. Marco Castellano is calculating, not impulsive, Lorenzo explained as we drove to the restaurant. His son Vincent is the hothead. If anyone loses control, it'll be Vincent. Stay calm, stay by my side, and trust me to handle it. What if they threaten me? Then I'll make it very clear what happens to people who threaten what's mine. His hand found my knee, squeezing gently. But it won't come to that, Lily. They're testing boundaries, not starting a war. The restaurant was exactly what I'd expected. Expensive, exclusive, with enough dark corners for private conversations. The Castellanos were already there, seated at a large table in the back. Marco, Vincent, and Teresa, his wife, along with 2 men I didn't recognize, but who screamed, "Muscle." Lorenzo's hand settled on the small of my back as we approached, a gesture of possession and protection. Marco, thanks for meeting on short notice. Lorenzo. Marco Castellano's eyes moved to me, assessing. And Miss Martinez. Or should I say, the future Mrs. DeLuca. Congratulations on your engagement. The way he said it made it sound like an accusation. I lifted my chin, refusing to be intimidated. Thank you, though I'm keeping Martinez as well. Martinez DeLuca has a nice ring to it. Vincent Castellano snorted. Progressive, how modern of you, Lorenzo, letting your woman keep her name. My fiancée does what she wants, Lorenzo said smoothly, pulling out my chair. That's what happens when you marry someone for love instead of strategy. The barb landed. Everyone knew the Castellanos' marriage was political, not romantic. Teresa's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. Shall we get to business? Marco said, clearly wanting to move past personal matters. The waterfront development. You violated our agreement, Lorenzo. Interesting claim, considering I have documentation proving otherwise. Lorenzo pulled out his phone, tapping through files. The agreement stated we'd cease construction in sectors 4 through 7 in exchange for your backing with the Planning Commission. We've not only ceased construction, we've permanently abandoned those sectors. Your turn to hold up your end. The agreement also stated no additional development in the Harbor District for 18 months. Vincent leaned forward, aggressive. Yet you've just filed permits for the Marina project. The Marina project is in Sector 12, well outside the restricted zone. I surprised myself by speaking up. Sector 12 was explicitly excluded from the agreement under Clause 7, Subsection 3. We violated nothing. Silence fell around the table. Marco Castellano studied me with new interest. You've read the agreement. Cover to cover, twice. I held his gaze steadily. Lorenzo doesn't make deals he can't keep, Mr. Castellano. and he certainly doesn't appreciate being accused of violations that don't exist. Bold words from a secretary. Vincent's tone was dismissive. Executive Director of Operations, Lorenzo corrected, his voice going cold. And my fiancé. Choose your next words carefully, Vincent. The threat hung in the air, barely veiled. Vincent sat back, his jaw tight with suppressed anger. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding? Teresa interjected smoothly. These agreements can be complex, easy to misinterpret. No misunderstanding. Marco's eyes never left mine. Just a test, to see if Lorenzo's new relationship had made him sloppy, distracted. Clearly, it hasn't. On the contrary, Lorenzo said, his hand finding mine on the table. Lily makes me more focused, not less. Because now I have something worth protecting beyond just empire and reputation. I have someone I love. Someone who grounds me. Someone who makes me better at everything I do. The raw honesty in his voice sent warmth through my chest. This wasn't just performance for the Castellanos. This was truth, spoken publicly, stakes declared. Then we have no issue, Marco concluded, rising to his feet. The agreement stands as written. The marina project proceeds. And congratulations again on your engagement. It seems you found something rare, Lorenzo. Don't take it for granted. As we left the restaurant, Lorenzo kept me close, his arm around my waist. Once we were in the car, I let out the breath I'd been holding. That was terrifying. You were perfect. He kissed me fiercely. Did you see their faces when you quoted the agreement? When you stood up to Vincent? God, Lily, you were magnificent. I was shaking the entire time. But you didn't show it. That's what matters. His hand cupped my face. You're not just my fiancé, Lily. You're my partner in everything. Business, life, all of it. Tonight proved that. Over the following weeks, I learned what it truly meant to be Lorenzo's partner. He brought me into meetings, asked my opinion on strategy, trusted me with information about both his legitimate businesses and the darker aspects of his empire. True to his word, he held nothing back. I saw the full reality of his world, the violence and the power and the impossible choices. And I chose to stay. Not because I was trapped or naive, but because I loved the man beneath the reputation. Because Lorenzo with me was different than Lorenzo with everyone else. Vulnerable, honest, capable of softness, even when the world demanded hardness. The wedding was planned for exactly 1 month after our engagement, small by the standards of Lorenzo's world. Only 150 guests, but intimate in the ways that mattered. My dress was simple but elegant. The emerald engagement ring my something green, and my mother's pearl necklace borrowed from the box of her things I'd kept. Standing at the altar, watching Lorenzo's face as I walked down the aisle, I saw everything I'd ever wanted reflected in his eyes. Love, yes, but also partnership, respect, certainty that we were building something unshakable. I love you, he mouthed as I reached him. I know, I whispered back. I love you too. The vows were traditional, but felt weighted with meaning when Lorenzo promised to love and cherish me, when I promised to stand beside him through everything. When we exchanged rings, my emerald wedding band joining the engagement ring, his platinum band marking him as mine, I felt the rightness of it settle into my bones. This was where I belonged, not in safety or simplicity, but here, with this complicated, dangerous, absolutely devoted man who'd claimed me so completely. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the priest announced. You may kiss your bride. Lorenzo's kiss was both tender and possessive, a promise of the life we were building together. When we finally broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. Mine, he breathed. Yours, I confirmed. Always yours, and you're always mine. Always, he agreed. As we walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, facing our future together, I knew we'd face challenges. Lorenzo's world was dangerous, complicated, full of enemies and threats. But we'd face it together. Equal partners, devoted lovers, husband and wife. I'd started as his secretary, fallen in love with my boss, and ended up as his queen. Not because of his money or power, but because he'd given me the one thing I'd always wanted, his heart, complete and unguarded. And that was worth more than any empire he could build.